Hey everyone, I am so excited to bring you today's interview because this world expert answered questions for me about two superfoods I've known about for decades, and I knew about how incredible the healing properties were. My father, in fact, used one of them to help him recover from a very severe poisoning, which aged him 20 years in just 6 months. This is chlorella and spirulina that we're going to be talking about today, and how one of them is uniquely suited for detoxing heavy metals and other pesticides in the body, and the other is uniquely suited for providing an array of nutrition in a way that's incredibly bioavailable. This is my interview with Dr. Catharine Arnston. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Next Level Healing. I'm your host, Dr. Tara Perry. I'm so excited about the subject that we're bringing you today because I've known about it for decades, and I've always had a lot of confusion about the nuances of it. My father was one of those people that was poisoned with the L-tryptophan contaminated batch that came into the country in the 1980s. There's nothing wrong with L-tryptophan, but this was a contaminated batch, and it really caused a lot of people to suffer, and I think about 64 people died. But one of the things that he attributed to helping him heal was chlorella. So my guest today is Dr. Catharine Arnston. She is a globally recognized leader in algae nutrition, cellular health, and women's wellness. After her sister's breast cancer diagnosis, Catharine left a successful corporate career to uncover the most nutrient-dense, healing superfoods she could find on the planet. And what she found was algae, a 4-billion-year-old wellness secret that's backed by over 100,000 scientific studies, used by NASA, and endorsed by the UN. Now with a PhD in natural health, an MBA, and experience speaking on over 300 podcasts and to over 30 medical conferences, she specializes in natural energy, longevity, and hormone balance without pills or side effects. She's been featured on CBS, NBC, Shark Tank, Cosmopolitan, David Asprey's The Human Upgrade, Vanity Fair, Vogue, Psychology Today, and many more. Welcome, Dr. Catharine Arnston.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Dr. Tara. And I am eager to share the knowledge of algae and its healing properties, which is well known in Asia, but not outside of Asia. So it's our turn, don't you think?
Yeah, I understand that it actually rivals the beef industry in terms of being a source of protein in Asia. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. Well, the first thing people need to know is that algae is not a supplement. We sell it in tiny tablets, about the size of a baby aspirin. And I'll show you some of those later. But it's an agricultural crop. So, and I like to show people these because they don't believe me. These are pictures of an algae farm. This is a spirulina farm, and this is a chlorella farm. It's grown.
Oh,
Algae
wow.
is in the ocean and the rivers and the lakes and streams. It's everywhere. But it's also harvested in fresh water as an agricultural crop. So it's called hydroponic farming. Lots of people know about lettuce and tomatoes being grown in fresh water hydroponically. Well, so is algae. Spirulina and chlorella are what we're going to be talking about today. And then we just dry it into a powder, and then we press it into these tablets that we affectionately call bits because they're bits of nutrition. Now, the interesting thing about algae, especially spirulina algae, is that it has been endorsed, as you mentioned, by the United Nations for over 50 years as the answer to world hunger. And you can go online and find the proceedings of a conference they had back in 1906, I think, because algae, spirulina algae, has the highest concentration of protein in the world. Ours is 64% protein. So that's 3 times the amount of protein as steak or chicken or fish. There is nothing in the world with more protein than spirulina algae. Chlorella has almost as much. It's 60% compared to 64. So the reason why this is so important is because we need more protein. A lot of, they're using rice and other, lack of low density nutritional foods to feed the world. But spirulina is truly the answer because, not only for them, but also for us, in particular for women, as we get older, we need more protein to maintain our muscles, our bones, because your bones are mostly protein and minerals. But with animal protein, when you eat animal protein, your body can't absorb it as protein. It has to break it down into something called amino acids. And it can take up to 2 or 3 days because all the aminos are all bound up. And because most people these days have compromised digestive tracts, when you do, it takes after those 3 days, you may have eaten 50 grams of protein, but you only absorbed 10% as aminos. And it took 3 days. So it's very inefficient way to get your protein. Now you can get collagen, which is in what's called peptides, which are small clusters of aminos. They get absorbed faster. But the great thing about algae is that the protein is already in individual amino acid form.
So for those of us that are not joining us with video, I just want to mention that Catharine has shown a very complex diagram of the animal protein, a much more simple one of the collagen, and a super simple one of the chlorella protein.
Well, the spirulina and the chlorella, because when the amino acids are individual, your body doesn't have to do any work to absorb it. It has to work really hard to break down the animal protein into amino acids so it can be absorbed. With the spirulina and chlorella algae, it's all done for the body. The body goes, woohoo, thanks so much. Like, get out of jail card free. I'll take that now. And so you get literally a 99.9% bioavailability because it's absorbed instantly. And algae is a complete protein, which is the other important thing. It has 18 of the 20 aminos, including the 9 your body can't make. So that's why it's called a complete protein, which is good news for vegans because they often have to combine foods to get a complete protein. And also, if anyone's a carnivore or paleo, algae protein is good for you too, because algae has other nutrients you're not getting when you're a carnivore. And it's carnivore friendly or autoimmune friendly because it does not have any lectins or oxalates, which a lot of plants have, like spinach and kale. And things like almonds are very high in lectins and oxalates, which are sharp proteins that can damage your stomach lining and lead to these autoimmune. So a lot of people go carnivore to keep out these lectins and oxalates. Well, algae doesn't have any of those. So it's very efficient protein. Spirulina is the most efficient, not only because it has all those aminos in individual form, but spirulina is actually a bacteria. It does not have a cellulose wall. So your body's going, woohoo, thank you. I can absorb all this now. So it's literally in seconds if you chew it, although I will say most people do swallow the spirulina because it's very chewy because of all that protein. But minutes when you swallow it. So very available protein, instantly absorbed. It's a complete protein. Every single person in the world should be taking spirulina. We'll talk about those reasons later on. But one of the main ones is this very availability of protein and that it's a complete protein that anyone in the world can digest. You can give this even to babies because there's no fiber in spirulina. There's a bit in chlorella, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Hey guys, studies are showing that 68% of people that watch podcasts regularly don't click the subscribe button. Do me a huge favor. If you like this content, click subscribe so other people know where to go for the cool stuff. Thank you.
And I've heard you mention that in Japan, they actually do give this to babies. Can you mention why they do that?
Yeah. Well, and I had read this in a book because apparently if babies are born premature and they don't have the ability to digest mother's breast milk, the only thing they've experimented with just about everything, the only thing that seems to keep the babies alive is spirulina in water. And I was always curious about that. And one day I stumbled across a chart that showed the amino acids and the nutrient profile of mother's breast milk, the colostrum, the early breast milk. And I thought, gosh, that looks awfully familiar. So I went back to our chart that showed all the aminos listed in spirulina, and they were virtually identical. So the same aminos in the same proportions. And also there's a very important essential fatty acid called GLA, gamma linolenic acid, which is technically an omega-6, but when you don't heat it, it behaves like an omega-3. And the only place that has more of this GLA than spirulina is mother's breast milk. And the reason for that is because it's very important for the baby's brain development, because a baby's brain doubles or triples in size within the first 2 years of birth. So but you can't have mother's breast milk after, the age of 2. You look pretty funny if you're 20 or 25, and you can buy colostrum now, which is interesting, but it's all in the spirulina. So it keeps babies alive. It will keep you alive. It's the most nutrient dense, 60 vitamins and minerals. You could live on this forever because it's such a complete food. It is a whole food, and ours is a raw food because we do not use high heat to dry it, which is one of the distinguishing features of our algae versus anybody else's. Because as soon as you start applying heat, and most of the lower priced algae companies do because they need to get to market quickly, but we've never done that. Once you apply heat, you kill enzymes and you kill pigments, and you deactivate lots of other critical nutrients. So this is why I was wondering, why does our algae work so much better than anybody else's? And it's because of this heat factor. And we'll get into some of these critical enzymes because they are essential for maintaining your health, particularly as you get into 40 and 50, because our body stops producing some of them. And the only place you can find them is in spirulina and, to a lesser degree, chlorella. So it's an SOS that we have for everybody.
Yeah, heat actually denatures things, which means you take nature and you pull it apart and it doesn't do its job anymore. You mentioned lectins and how they don't have lectins. A lot of people have problems with plant products because of the lectins. Can you tell our audience what a lectin is?
Yes. Yes. So evolutionarily, land-based plants, have developed these things called lectins and oxalates, and they're proteins, and they're sharp. And it was to defend themselves from predators like bugs and animals, because they upset their tummies just like they upset our tummies. So this was one of the ways that allowed them to stay in the evolutionary path, is having these protective. Some things taste terrible, but these are lectins and oxalates are sharp proteins that damage stomach lining. So ultimately, the bugs and the animals don't come back after they've tried some. But and so it was really important. But they also upset and damage our stomach linings as well. They puncture the stomach lining, which is only one cell thick. And that causes food and other items to get into your bloodstream. And so this can trigger autoimmune diseases because your body goes, hey, what the heck is that stuff floating around in my bloodstream? I'm going to attack that. And then it attacks other parts of your body and leads to these illnesses. But algae evolved from the ocean. It's never been a land plant. So it never had to develop lectins or oxalates. This is why people like Dr. Stephen Gundry support us. I've been on his podcast 3 times. He has a book called The Plant Paradox. And in the book, he mentions, there are good things about plants, but there's also these, what they call anti-nutrients that can cause health issues. So the fact that algae doesn't have any, it's like, woo, all right, another thumbs up on algae, and you'll learn many more thumbs up, because there's not a single negative thing about algae other than the fact that people don't know about it outside of Asia or the healing properties. And
that's really cool that you've been on his podcast 3 times.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
yeah.
He is the guy that really knows the most about lectins. So,
Yeah.
so for our listeners that this is a first time exposure, just tell us, what is algae, macroalgae, microalgae, just so we understand the basic thing that we're
Absolutely.
talking about.
Yeah. So algae is actually its own food category, and then it breaks down into subcategories, macro and microalgae. Just like, a category could be fruit, and a subcategory might be apples, and then you might have another subcategory of pineapples, for example. So one main category of algae is macroalgae, and then the other one is microalgae. We're talking about microalgae today, but I'll tell you what macroalgae is. It's that stringy stuff that you see washing up on shore, also known as seaweed or dulse or kelp. Now, it's still good for you because it's very high in protein, but it has virtually zero nutrition. So high in fiber, high in fiber, zero nutrition. There's only a few strains, and it's only in the sea, and that's why it's called seaweed. By the way, it does have iodine because it's from the sea, which can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on where your thyroid is. So high fiber, zero nutrition. Microalgae, which is what we're talking about, is completely opposite. First of all, it's everywhere. Yes, it's in the sea, but it's also in the rivers, the streams, the soil, your swimming pool, and harvested as a food crop. Number two, it has either zero fiber or virtually no fiber. Spirulina, as I mentioned, is a bacteria, zero fiber. Chlorella does have a little bit of fiber. We're going to talk about that because it's that hard. That is the hardest cellulose wall in the plant kingdom, and it attaches to toxins like what your father experienced in heavy metals, glyphosate, pesticides. So high zero fiber, but the most nutrient dense food in the universe. This is all proven. And the reason why it's so dense is because it's called microalgae because you can't see it with your eye. You can get like 1 million of these microalgae on the head of a pin. And so then when you consolidate it into these little tiny tablets that we do that are like a baby aspirin, the size of a baby aspirin, you start to understand why it's so nutrient dense. In fact,
so Catherine is showing me these little tins of they're pressed tablets, and they look like green aspirin sizes.
Right, they look like green aspirins, and there's so much nutrition in these green tablets that one tablet has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables, about a pound of vegetables. And I didn't just come up with that out of the air. We have a quote from NASA, who's, by the way, has been feeding spirulina and chlorella to the astronauts for over 50 years. We have all sorts of documents from NASA that document all the reasons why they do that. But one is this nutrient density. Now, when you're in a spaceship, or you don't have a lot of room. So this has 1,000 times more nutrition than any other fruit or vegetables, 1 to 1,000. I mean, that's really almost unbelievable. And this is why it's so important for all of us, because right now, nobody is getting proper nutrition because our soils are so damaged. There's no minerals there. So even if you are eating vegetables, you're not eating the kind of vegetables that your grandparents had. So I call this your nutritional spirulina. We'll talk about spirulina in particular, your nutritional insurance, because it gives you everything that you need. And then chlorella, which we'll talk about in a minute, is your health insurance because it protects your health. So when we sell these algae, we sell them in large bags there's about 1,000 tablets in a bag. One bag has the same nutrition as 551 pounds of vegetables, because I used that calculation from NASA on that. 551 pounds of vegetables, that's a lot of nutrition. So it's efficient nutrition. So back to the category, macro is the stringy stuff that washes up on shore, lots of fiber, no nutrition. Microalgae, which is what we're talking about today, high nutrition, concentrated nutrition, no fiber, and is harvested as a food crop. Now, within microalgae, you have other subcategories like blue-green algae and green algae. Just like in the category of apples, you might have Granny Smith, Macintosh, Fiji, lots of different subtypes, right? So within microalgae, we have subtypes: blue-green, green. There's also red. Not much. There's not much people using or growing red, but blue-green and green are the two most common. And one type of blue-green is spirulina. And I mention this because spirulina is the blue-green algae that is harvested. And that whether you go to Trader Joe's or Walmart or to us at ENERGYbits.com, this is the blue-green algae that is grown. It's spirulina. Now, you may read about a blue-green algae closing your favorite beach, but that's not spirulina. That's another bad boy, member of the family that, and by the way, poor algae gets the bum rap, because why does the algae show up on the beach? To absorb toxins and kill bacteria. This is Mother Nature's cleanup crew. It does it automatically. Now, you couldn't see the bacteria or the toxins, but you can see the algae. You still want to stay away from the algae because it's absorbing all those toxins. So please keep your pets away. Don't pick it up. But it's there to clean up the waters. Now, it does the same thing in your body. It is the cleanup crew. So you want to think of it in a very positive way, because it's there to protect you and help you gain back or your health if you've lost some aspects to it. So blue-green algae is a type of algae, but spirulina is the type that is harvested in fresh water. Now, this is really important because algae will absorb whatever's in the water. You never want algae that's grown in a lake, and I know there's a couple of companies that do that, or an ocean, because you cannot keep microtoxins out of these wild bodies of water. We're known for having the safest algae because we grow it in triple filtered spring mountain water. And we do microtoxin testing here in the United States. Of course, we never have any. So what you put in your body is so important for your health. And that's what we make sure that we grow it so carefully that you're only getting what your body needs and not what it doesn't.
And where is the algae deriving all this incredible nutrition? It's from the sun and
From the sun. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, I'll do a little segue. I don't usually get to this to the very end because I do want to get to mitochondria health, because if you're not familiar with mitochondria, they're these little tiny organelles that are in all of your cells that generate what's called cellular energy, also known as ATP. And your body needs cellular energy for everything, not just running to the grocery store or having a great workout. It's for your lymphatic system, your neurotransmitters, for your heartbeat, for your lung. Your body uses cellular energy for everything. Think of it as electricity. Like in an office, you have light bulbs and electricity that keep everything, everybody working. And when your light bulbs go out, you pick up the phone and call your maintenance guy who comes and replaces it for you. Well, in your body, your mitochondria are not just the light bulbs, they're also the electricity. They generate the electricity for the light bulbs that keep your body going and working. The trouble is, and we'll talk about this in a minute, as you get older, your mitochondria get damaged and die. So it's like having fewer and fewer light bulbs in your body. And the trouble is you don't have a maintenance crew to call to just replace them. But there is something, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, there's an antioxidant that is like your maintenance people. It's called superoxide dismutase, also known as SOD, that is like your maintenance people because it protects the mitochondria so they can come back to life, which is like turning your light bulbs on. Now, this whole process started evolutionarily 4 billion years ago. This whole ATP, cellular energy, and it was spirulina, which was a cyanobacteria. It was the first life on Earth 4 billion years ago. Nobody knows why it started growing. So I say it's pretty spiritual. So I call spirulina spiritualina now. But before this cyanobacteria, Earth was just gas and water. And this little cell just showed up, which was a cyanobacteria. And it used the sun to generate cellular energy, ATP. And then after 1 billion years, there was enough oxygen on Earth because it was an anaerobic cell because there was no oxygen on Earth. There was now enough oxygen on Earth that it was having problems because it did better in non-oxygen. And now a new form of cells that was more complicated, that was aerobic, started growing. And I can imagine the conversation between the aerobic cell and the non-aerobic cell. The aerobic cell said, "Hey, little guy, I see you're having a problem there with all this oxygen. How about you join forces with us and create ATP cellular energy for us, and we'll protect you from all that oxygen." And basically, that's what happened. It's all documented in science. It's called endosymbiotic theory. And that very first little cell got absorbed by the bigger cell and became your mitochondria. So when we talk about the power of sunlight to generate energy and the importance of mitochondria to generate energy for your body, it's the same thing. And when you talk about spirulina and then later chlorella, it's literally family. Your mitochondria evolved directly from algae. Crazy. And we'll talk to you about why this is so important, because that original cell from when it was by itself never went away. It stayed in the mitochondria, which is why the mitochondria is impenetrable by most antioxidants, except this one that you find in algae to protect it. So it's all related to cellular energy from the sun. They're little power plants. These mitochondria are affected by the sun and they affect you. When your mitochondria are healthy, so are you.
Can you share with us a slide deck so that we can put that in the show notes?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic, because you have these wonderful pictures and photos. The farms of where this is grown, it look absolutely amazing. Very, very
And
pristine.
we grow ours, yes, and we grow ours in Taiwan. And Taiwan is the gold standard for growing algae. Most of it is the cheaper stuff is grown in India and China, and we don't grow ours there. And so the reason I mention that is because algae is not like growing broccoli. It's more like making wine. So it's affected by the angle of the sun. Just like, when you get Sauvignon Blanc, which I like, I don't drink a lot, but I do occasionally. It tastes different from Australia than from Italy. Part of it's the sun. It's also the soil, and so that's number one. So Taiwan is known for having the highest quality. Number two is this production process. The length the wine stays in the barrels and the kind of wood they use all affects the quality and the flavor of the wine. Well, with algae, do you use high heat? We do not. So we preserve all the nutrients. Everybody else does. So they kill some of these critical nutrients that won't turn your lights back on. So it's much more complicated than people think. By the way, I do plan to grow algae in large quantity here in Florida because I drew a line across the globe from Taiwan and found out that Florida has exactly the same climate. So that's my long-term goal. So we can build an algae industry here in America and just like they've been growing it in Asia, by the way, for 60 years.
Wow.
60.
And it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Multi-billion. They put it, we put chia seeds and flax seeds and our chips and our foods. They put algae in everything.
Really?
Everything. They
Like
also
what?
eat it. The protein, tea, snack foods, because it has that high protein and omega-3s. And so it's just, they've been the Olympic teams, they're told they have to take spirulina. By the way, if you're an athlete, spirulina is the most powerful pre-workout you'll ever have. It's not just your energy, it's for your mental focus. And I'll explain how all that
So
works.
what about time of day to take these things? Because it sounds like the spirulina is the no cell wall, super access to protein. And it sounds like the chlorella, which is what my father praised for helping him get over the poisoning that he suffered.
Yes.
Is your mop-up crew to really get rid of heavy metals.
Yes, I'm still because I want people to see what they look like. So spirulina, absolutely. Says spirulina is known as being energizing. That's why we called our spirulina ENERGYbits, because we want people to know what it does. Now, most people think about energy as something like you get from a stimulant, like a Red Bull or caffeine or sugar. This is not a stimulant. The energy you get from spirulina occurs at the cellular level. This is increasing your ATP production, which is your cellular energy. When you take a stimulant, it's like putting a paper on a fire. You get a burst of energy and then you get a crash, and that affects your insulin. You get an insulin spike and then a crash, which isn't good for you either.
You're basically kicking the adrenals to put out more than they want to put out.
This is like putting a log on the fire. So it's very steady. I call it quiet energy. And if you take, we suggest 10 or 15 at a time to feel anything. Athletes take 30 or 60 before, if they're, serious athletes. For like NHL, we feel NHL teams, NFL teams. So they'll put like 75 in their smoothie before a game. So the energy you get is because of the cellular energy, the ATP production, also the blue pigment. We'll talk about that if we have time. It also speeds up this process of ATP production in something geeky called the electron transport chain. Also, it's loaded with iron that carries oxygen. Oxygen gives you energy, and it is also loaded with B vitamins. The B vitamins are converted into energy. That's why a lot of energy drinks have a lot of B vitamins. So you usually want, and also satisfies your hunger because it has so much protein in it and essential fatty acids like omega-3 and that one I mentioned, GLA. So when you wake up, you're tired, you're hungry, you want to get out the door. This is the perfect time to have spirulina. It's also ketogenic. And so if you're on a keto diet, it's ketogenic, 0 carbs. If you're on a fast, it will not interfere with your fast. I do intermittent fasting every day. So this way you're not hangry. You can get through your fast, you can get through your keto day, and then you have your meal when you want later on. So, and weight loss, or if you're on a GLP-1, if anyone is on a GLP-1, please, please, please take spirulina. You'll need 30 a day, because when you're not eating, your body's not getting nourished, and you're certainly not getting the muscles you need or the protein to preserve your muscles. This is very important as you get over 50, because you get muscle wasting. Weight bearing activities is also important, but this will give you the protein. So spirulina, very good for morning, afternoon, pre-workout. You can never have too much of it. It's just a food. I will say that most people don't like the taste of spirulina, because it's very chewy. So you can swallow it. It doesn't matter. You get the same benefit. So that's spirulina, morning, afternoon, pre-workout. Now, chlorella, and I call this your nutritional insurance, and we will talk about this important antioxidant called superoxidismutase, which protects your mitochondria, and you have the most of those in your brain. You have 2 million per cell in your brain, which is why this also improves your brain health and your focus. So if you're at work or you're driving or you're doing brain surgery, you should be taking spirulina absolutely before, because it goes to work right away. Chlorella is the other main microalgae that people are familiar with and that we sell. We call ours ENERGYbits, because what chlorella does is it builds your immune system and pulls out toxins. Spirulina does not pull out toxins. It's cleansing because it has chlorophyll, but chlorella has the most chlorophyll in the world, and it has that hard cell wall that attaches to all heavy metals, lead, mercury, radiation.
And tell us why chlorophyll is so important. I love that photo that you show of how the chlorophyll and the blood.
I know.
And the hemoglobin look exactly alike. So she's holding up a picture, and we'll put it in the show notes. But the picture of the hemoglobin and chlorophyll, they look absolutely identical.
And you can go online and see that. I'm not showing you anything that isn't already. This is what's so crazy about algae. There's so much science around it, but it's never been explained to laymen's. I mean, the scientists know all about this, but they don't know how to talk to us mere mortals. So that's what I'm doing. I want you to see that your hemoglobin and chlorophyll are virtually identical. The difference is your hemoglobin has an iron atom in the middle. That's what carries oxygen. And your chlorophyll has magnesium. Now, the trouble is our food, because I mentioned earlier, our soils are so damaged that they're not able to provide you with critical nutrients anymore, because there's just no nutrients in the soil. So you're not getting chlorophyll when you eat greens. My arugula goes yellow after day 3. I mean, I still eat arugula because I like it.
And both Stephen Gundry and Dr. Zach Bush have gone into depth with that and shown us charts on how, with the advent of factory farming back in the 1960s, when they started messing with all of that, chronic disease started going up.
Oh, it's completely parallel, absolutely completely parallel. And I can give you another analogy about the absence of vitamin K2, which algae has the daily requirement of. It was related to that whole factory farming thing. But chlorophyll is critical. First of all, as I mentioned about the arugula, there's nothing in the world with more chlorophyll than chlorella. It's called chlorella because of the chlorophyll. So if that helps you. And I put a leaf, I design all the packaging. I put a leaf on the packaging so you'll know that it's a plant. The spirulina has water on it because it came from the ocean. It's a bacteria. So chlorophyll, there's 500 times more chlorophyll in chlorella than arugula. You could fill whatever room you're sitting in with arugula, and you still would not get the same amount of chlorophyll that's probably in one serving of chlorella tablets. So, and
it has even more than liquid. It has even more than liquid.
25 times more than liquid chlorophyll, because they use alfalfa sprouts usually for chlorophyll water. And so up your game. I'm glad you're taking chlorophyll water, but if you want more, chlorophyll water only has chlorophyll in it. Chlorella has 25 times more chlorophyll than chlorophyll water. Plus, you get 60% protein, high collagen, 40 vitamins and minerals. Chlorophyll is just the warm-up act. This is the real deal. This is the orchestra of nutrition. So concentrated chlorophyll. What does chlorophyll do? Well, it builds your blood, as you can see. Number one, it kills bacteria. Remember, we talked about the cleanup crew? Well, this is one of the things that it does in the water and also in your body. Now, chlorella has a cellulose wall. Remember, spirulina does not because it's a bacteria. And what's so important about that cellulose wall? It attaches to toxins, any kind of toxins. Heavy metals, lead, mercury, radiation, aluminum. If you're getting vaccines, please start taking 15 or 30 of these a week before your vaccine. Take it, for the month after the vaccine. It will pull out any of those metals that are in vaccines. So this will protect you, hopefully, and your family from any damage that might occur from a vaccine shot. So very, very important about the hard cell wall pulling out toxins. It even pulls out alcohol, by the way. So whether you're having wine or beer or any kind of spirits, it pulls it out of your bloodstream within an hour and a half, and you are stone sober within an hour and a half. I will never have a hangover. Now, the other thing about this cell wall is that it has fiber. Now, we all know that fiber is important for gut health because it feeds your gut biome, all those little happy bacteria. Well, there's some happy and unhappy. These feed the happy ones. So you get more happy bacteria because they're getting the fiber that they need to build your immune system, which, by the way, 80% of your immune system is in your gut, and it's due to the bacteria. So this is very much a gut health algae. And other things that I want you to know about, this stimulates something called peristalsis, also a fancy word for bowel movements. I tell people it's not just the nutrition that you need going in, it's getting rid of the toxins that you shouldn't have. The average American adult has 800 toxins in their body. Our immune systems just were not built to sustain that. So we want to pull them out. How do you remove toxins? Through sweat, breath, urine, and bowel movements. So this sweating is great for you. That's why exercise is great. Saunas are great, but also take this after any of those biohacks and certainly before bed. Because when you are sleeping, this is when your body goes through a detox repair cycle and pulls out all the junk in your trunk. And so this will help you. And I know if you're on medications, if you're traveling, you're eating too many carbs, you're eating too much sugar, you're stressed, you are probably constipated. It's a big issue. And you've got to get rid of that stuff that's down there, because if you don't, I tell people it's like having a garbage truck parked in front of your car or your home permanently. This will get rid of it. So chlorella pulls out toxins, heavy metals, glyphosate, spores from any kind of mold. This is one of the most effective ways to heal yourself from mold, because, of course, they release toxins into your body as well. And you can take it any time of day. It also helps with digestion, but please take it before bed, because this is where you're going to get the maximum value from the chlorella. So while you're getting your beauty rest, chlorella's in there scrubbing away, getting rid of the stuff that in your brain, helping you eliminate in the morning, get rid of stuff that shouldn't be there. So we suggest nighttime, but you can take it any time of day. It also pulls out lactic acid for athletes to know, so they can recover faster.
Dr. Catharine, what are like 3 of the biggest areas that you've seen? I mean, you've mentioned athletes, bioidentical dentistry. What are some of the bigger areas that you're just hearing overwhelmingly positive results?
Well, I would say by far longevity and preventing chronic disease. Here's what's happening. Our bodies are not being nourished because we don't have it in our food any longer, and we're being poisoned to death by processed foods and toxins in our air, our food, our
And what is the
clothes.
rate of cell turnover in the body daily that we need to be concerned about?
Yes, well, because you're getting poisons, literally, your body can't perform optimally. And when you get to the age of 40, there's a very important antioxidant that your body stops producing for you. Just like after the age of 40, your body slows down melatonin production, slows down estrogen for women. This is because our bodies are preparing us for death. We've been on Earth for 2 million years, and up until about 150 years ago, we died at 30. Evolutionarily, our bodies still think we're dying at 30. This is why things start to slow down. And this is why after the age of 40, life just is not the same, because you do not have these same protective nutrients and antioxidants and hormones that you had until then. And one of these protective nutrients is this antioxidant called superoxide dismutase, which I'm sure you've never heard of before. But you have it from the moment you're born until about the age of 40. But just like other things after the age of 40, your body goes, oh, I'm preparing you for death, so I'm going to shut down, let's slow down and shut down this antioxidant. What does this antioxidant do? Well, it protects your mitochondria from free radical damage. Because when you create this stuff called cellular energy, also known as ATP, a byproduct are free radicals. And we know that free radicals are a damaging molecule because they have an unpaired electron. So they steal an electron from another molecule, which causes more tissue damage. Now, there's these things called antioxidants that we know about that neutralize free radicals. So far, so good, right? The problem is, remember I showed you how that your mitochondria started as an evolutionary, as its own single cell. So it has a second membrane. It's the only cell in your body with a second membrane. And virtually no antioxidants can get in there. So all this free radical damage, that's all the ATP that's being produced and throwing off free radicals is causing, Garen's going to get this other chart, is causing damage of your mitochondria. Remember, they're the lights. They're the generating the cellular energy that keeps the lights on, keeps your brain working, keeps everything working. The good news is there are some antioxidants that can get in there, and they're all found in algae. Chlorophyll is one, glutathione is one. The most important one is this thing called superoxide dismutase, because what it does is it neutralizes the most damaging free radical, which is called superoxide. So it protects your DNA, it protects your mitochondria, it protects you. Think of it as a big golf umbrella. You know, when you're in a rainstorm and you pop one of those big golf umbrellas, whether you're golfing or shopping, you're protected, right? You haven't stopped the rain, but you've stopped the rain from reaching you, so you stay dry. That's what superoxide dismutase does for your mitochondria. It doesn't stop the free radicals because it's a byproduct, but what it does is it converts the free radical into water and oxygen, which is like having a big golf umbrella. So your mitochondria are protected. They're happy. They're working until the age of 40. And then your body slows down the production of that superoxide dismutase, so that golf umbrella is now the size of one of those city totes umbrella. By the time you're 45, certainly by 50, you have zero. It's like the size of a cocktail umbrella. Now your mitochondria are completely exposed to free radicals. It's like someone stole your umbrella when you're standing out in this rainstorm. Now you're being drenched. Now your mitochondria are being drenched in free radicals, which causes what? Death and mutation of your mitochondria. When you have fewer mitochondria or damaged mitochondria, nothing works. Not your brain, not your ability to fight off disease, not your ability to heal from disease, nothing. So we need to get, and by the way, there's 25,000 studies confirming that superoxide dismutase stops inflammation, prevents Alzheimer's, prevents heart disease, prevents virtually every issue. The problem is nobody knows that you can get superoxide dismutase in the highest concentration in the universe in spirulina algae, and to a lesser extent in chlorella. But there's a catch, because superoxide dismutase is also an enzyme. So when you buy, and heat deactivates enzymes. So when you're buying those lower quality algae tablets that use heat to dry their algae, they are deactivating this critical antioxidant called superoxide dismutase. So you don't get the benefit. We have never used high heat, so we literally are giving you back your golf umbrella. So we can protect your mitochondria, turn the lights back on, literally, mentally. It doesn't take long. We have Alzheimer's patients that call us and tell us within 24 hours, their brain was working again. This is because your brain has 2 million mitochondria per cell. So when you start turning the mitochondria back on and getting them to grow again, the first thing that turns on is your brain. This, to me, is the answer for all of us, particularly for women and particularly for anybody over the age of 50. We need our mitochondria to be functioning and being restored. And it's not a drug. Drugs can't get into the mitochondria either, by the way. Just want you to know that. The stuff that's in algae can get in there. Why? Because algae was the precursor to your mitochondria. It's like family. It's like, hey, bro, get in here. Thank you for showing up. Give us back our buff umbrella. We're working together. And it's remarkable. And it's from food. It's not a drug.
What are some other categories of problems you've heard? Because I'm guessing, you go to all these medical conferences. People must be giving you a lot of feedback about things that are improving with this.
Well, the brain cognition and the depression, there's a great book by the name of Dr. Chris Palmer called Brain Energy. He wrote it about 3 years ago. He's a psychiatrist, and he's also on the he's also a professor at the medical school at Harvard. And in his book, he talks about how every brain issue, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, everything is due to damaged mitochondria. And so if we can get your mitochondria working properly again, this is what happens. Your brain starts turning back on. You get neurogenesis. You can get new pathways working again. Your brain, they used to think your brain couldn't regenerate itself. Yes, it can. So any kind of brainish ADHD, autism, everything is improved, particularly by spirulina, because it has the more superoxide dismutase, and also it has other nutrients in there like high essential fatty acids. Your brain has a high concentration of fat. So any kind of brain issues, and and while it's not life-threatening, getting your skin health and your hair health back, because this also stops free radical damage of your skin. It has more collagen than collagen powder. So you can restore the collagen, and it protects your elastin, which gets damaged by free radicals and also excess calcium. I'm turning 77, that's 70 next year. And I don't.
Fabulous.
I don't have any Botox, and I protect my skin from the sun, but I eat so much algae and have for 15 years. So I attribute most of it to the algae. This is my own hair, this is my own teeth. So from a beauty, just maintenance perspective, let's face it, we all want to look our best, and this will protect your skin. Also, the high chlorophyll acts as a protectant from the sun's radiation, so you don't burn as easily. So
not to mention the energy that you have.
Yes.
You have a remarkable energy.
Yes.
And we all want that as we get older.
Well, and that at any age, right? And it's not frantic energy. It's just my brain is on fire. The best way I will describe how you feel is you'll feel fresh and alert with spirulina, and you'll feel clean with chlorella. So think of this as nutrients in. Spirulina is nutrients in. Chlorella is toxins out. Doesn't get any more complicated than that. And this is spirulina is the most nutrient dense way to get nutrition, and chlorella is the most effective natural way to pull toxins out, whether it's through bowel movements or sweating. It's absolutely remarkable.
And I'd like to mention just a couple of things I've heard from you on other podcasts. You said that you got into this because you were looking to help your sister.
Yeah.
Because her oncologist said that she would do better with an alkaline environment. And there's the Otto Warburg Nobel Prize winner in the 1940s that said that cancer couldn't survive in an alkaline environment. As any of us know who have tried to do that with diet, it can be really challenging.
Yeah.
Because there is so much acidic food in our environment and in our food intake. So talk about the alkalinity that is increased with these products.
Well, a good point, because Otto Warburg did win a Nobel Prize in the 30s for discovering this issue of cancer. In fact, no disease can exist in cells that are slightly alkaline. Because when the cell, and so the range is from 0 to 14. So as long as your cells are like 7.1, which is slightly alkaline, it indicates there's oxygen in the cell, which indicates the mitochondria are healthy, because a byproduct of the ATP production, if you have the antioxidants, is water and oxygen because of the superoxide dismutase. So it indicates everything's working properly. When the cells become acidic, that means there's less oxygen in there, and so it is indication that they're not working, and they're basically sick. And so the trouble with cancer cells is they can't kill themselves. Our bodies are so refined that when we have a cell that's healthy, but it knows that it's kind of run its course, it will kill itself. It's sort of like when you have someone working at an office, they've been there for 50 years, they go, well, it's time to retire. And so what they do is they give off all the good projects to the next generation. Well, when your cell knows that it's sick and it's time to go, it does the same thing. It divides itself into smaller cells through a process called apoptosis. So there's no inflammation, there's no damage. One cell goes and you get 6 new ones. Perfect, right? But with cancer cells, they don't know they're sick. And so they can't go through this process called apoptosis. And so this is one of the reasons why they multiply. Cancer spreads so quickly because it can't go through this natural process of killing itself. Now, there's a pigment in spirulina called phycocyanin, and it has been proven to kill cancer cells. How cool is that? And I'll send you this deck, and I'm going to show you an example of one scientific paper. They took cancer cells and dyed them purple, and then they put phycocyanin, which by the way is spelled PHYCOCYANIN. If anyone wants to look it up on Google, they put phycocyanin in the petri dish, and after 24 hours, the cancer cells were killed. The chemotherapy companies, a lot of them, use phycocyanin in their treatments now to help with the killing of the cancer cells. So I don't know anybody who wants chemotherapy. So you can kill cancer cells every single day naturally if it's not exposed to IE, because just like that superoxide dismutase, the phycocyanin is deactivated by high heat. And phycocyanin, the blue pigment that's in spirulina, that's why it's called a blue-green algae. The other green is chlorophyll. It doesn't exist anywhere else in nature, nowhere else. People often ask me, is it better than methylene blue? And I tell, absolutely. First of all, methylene blue is a fabricated substance. You always do better with anything that's natural. Phycocyanin is natural and does way more than methylene blue.
And apoptosis, as many people know, is the process that happens with fasting. Please tell us about the study that you did that involved Joe Dispenza's lead scientist, Hemal Patel, who was on this show a few months ago.
So we know, as I mentioned, there's 100,000 studies documenting all these benefits of spirulina and chlorella, but I want to know, why did ours work so much better? So we did a small study, and Hemal Patel oversaw the research for us. We used a group called MeScreen. They have developed a blood test to evaluate the health of your mitochondria, which of course are the key. It's where the rubber hits the road. More mitochondria, healthier mitochondria means more of you and healthier you. So we took a small group of people, men and women, all over the age of 50, because that's where chronic disease kicks in, because that's when their mitochondria get damaged. We did a blood test using MeScreen. You can do it online, by the way, mescreen.com. We did a blood test to get the baseline of their mitochondria health. Then we gave everybody spirulina tablets for a week, and then we did another test. And then we gave them spirulina tablets for another 3 weeks and gave them another test. Now, after just the first week of spirulina, when they did the second blood test, they found that there was so much improvement in ATP production, reduced free radical production, that Hemal Patel said the only time he'd seen this kind of improvement with autophagy and apoptosis and improved ATP production was in another study where he had done with a group of people, and they did intermittent fasting for 90 days. They got some improvement in the health of the mitochondria, 90 days of intermittent fasting.
Do you know
This
how
was
long they intermittent fasted for? Did they do it for 12 hours or longer?
I actually
Do you
don't
know?
know. I couldn't. I probably couldn't. Should probably ask him. It might have been the 14 or 18, which is a little more standard. But the key is that after 7 days of spirulina, we got better results than after 90 days of intermittent fasting. Ultimately, the best results you'll ever get would be doing intermittent fasting with the spirulina. And so with intermittent fasting, it allows your body to relax. Because think about it. You're reducing the period in which you're eating. So you're eating in a smaller window of time. And what that does is that it stops the flow of food to your gut, which stops the flow of electrons and glucose into your cells. So they get a break. It's like you can't really clean up your car while you're driving your car. It's just you can't do it. Your cells can't clean themselves up while they're busy, moving all these glucose molecules around and directing traffic to different things. So by giving them a break from the digestive process, the cells go, oh, thank God. It's like pulling your car over to the side of the road when you're on a long road trip and you got all that junk food that's cluttering the bottom of your foot and you can't see anything, maybe even your accelerator, you can't see anything anymore. You get out, you pull over to the side of the road, you clean out all this stuff, you regroup, and you get back on the track. That's what happens with autophagy, which is the cleaning up of your cells. It gives them a chance. And so when they're cleaned up, they're getting rid of junk that shouldn't be there. They're getting rid of too many extra free radicals, too much calcium, whatever's, and they perform better. So that's what autophagy does. Now with the spirulina, you get all those benefits, but you get extra ones too, because it improves the process by which the energy is being generated through that thing called electron transport chain. It has corrective capabilities like killing those cancer cells. It brings back the alkalinity, which I would know is your original question. You've got to keep your cells alkaline, and algae is the easiest. It's the most alkaline food in the world. There is nothing in the world with more alkalinity than spirulina or chlorella. So you don't have to worry about drinking alkaline water. I mean, you can do all those extra things if you want, but this will certainly plug all the holes. So that's why, so we were able to measure that and quantify that through this test done with this me screen people that Hemal Patel oversaw for us. And
again, what's a recommended dosage, either therapeutically or just for nutrition, with both the spirulina and the chlorella?
Yes. So if you just want to fill a few nutritional gaps, and by the way, for spirulina, 10 tablets a day would be fine. And if you took 10 tablets a day, a bag of those 1,000 tablets would last you 3 months. And we have a discount code next level that gives you 20% off. And so here's the thing. If you took 10 tablets a day, that works out to $1 a day using the 20% discount code next level.
And just for people who might have concerns about taking, these are tiny things. This is a product I've taken for years, and my father also attributed it for him, and they're itsy bitsy. So it's not like, they're not big.
Yeah,
it's easy to take.
They go down in a heartbeat. They're absolutely, and if you swallow them, you're out the door in seconds. Now you can crush them and put them into a smoothie. You can eat them with, if you like the chewy flavor, you can mix them with trail mix. I put sea salt on them. So that's sort of like your starter. And by the way, when you take at least 10 a day of spirulina, you can eliminate a multivitamin, a fish oil. Please stop taking fish oil. Collagen. Please stop taking collagen powder. This is way better for you. Also, CoQ10, biotin. So you can eliminate about 5 other supplements that you may be taking, so you'll save time and money. So spirulina,
that's amazing. CoQ10 also, because CoQ10 is expensive, and anybody taking a statin, obviously,
NAD. You don't need. What does NAD do? It improves the cellular health. You don't need NAD when and you can't. It doesn't function properly if you don't have precursors, and so you have precursors in the spirulina. So you can wipe out a lot of those things. There's lots of mitochondria, health supplements. You don't need any of that. None of that. It all comes from the spirulina. And 10, as I said, is the sort of starter dose. Children, by the way, can take the same amount of as adults, or give them one or half of one of their age. So if they're 10, give them 5 a day. If they're 12, give them 6 a day. And then when they become a teenager, give them but you can have 100 if you wanted. You just your poop will just be a little green. That's all. But because there is so much protein, please increase your water, because protein needs water to be processed. So that's your starter, around 10 tablets. But if you have a health condition or are trying to correct one, or you had one, or you don't want one, 30 tablets is really your therapeutic amount. Anybody who has ever had any cancer, period, please take 30 tablets a day, because of the blue pigment that will kill any cancer cells that are still in there. And it won't happen with just any algae tablets. They can't be exposed to high heat. You could take frozen or fresh spirulina, same thing as ours, that they're both raw. That has the capability of the phycocyanins still to be functioning. So 30 would be, and you could take 60. Honestly, I have way more than that on a daily basis. Well,
and we're not offering this as a cure for cancer.
No, we're not. This is not. I want to be sure you understand. Please listen to your doctor. Please follow all your doctor's instructions. This is not a cure for cancer. However, I'm sharing information that explains and shows that this blue pigment has been found to kill cancer cells, but it's not a cure for cancer. Thank you for reminding me of that, to make sure people understand that. So 30 is more of a therapeutic amount. If you're an athlete, 30 is better. If you're running a marathon, a triathlete, you want a great workout, 30 would give you the energy and the focus to lift more. Now, same thing with chlorella. Chlorella would be 10 tablets would be your entry level, and that will build your immune system, bring your chlorophyll levels up. But for detox purposes, that's for pulling out heavy metals, any kind of glyphosate, any kind of microtoxins from mold, you need 30. It's just, it just is what it is. Now, the good thing is, chlorella actually tastes pretty good. I eat with pistachio nuts or sea salt, spirulina. Most people do swallow it, I will say. But this could be your bedtime snack. Put it with trail mix, put it on your salads as a garnish. It's crunchy. It tastes like a soy nut. I think it's delicious. It won't stick to your teeth like the spirulina does. But again, 30 would be your therapeutic amount. You can take it also during the day. If anyone is getting chemotherapy, please take this after your treatment to pull out excess chemo. It will help you not be as nauseous. And they used it during Chernobyl. They used it during Fukushima, because it's the only thing that pulls out radiation. So it's heavily documented. The United Nations used it. Everybody knows that this is what chlorella does, is it pulls out all toxins.
And you said you were offering people a discount code. You said Next Level?
Next Level, all one word. And it works on all the products, bags. We sell them in individual pouches of 30. That makes it really convenient.
Is that with a space or without a space?
No
Is
space,
it 2 words?
all one word.
No space.
Next Level.
Next Level, one word.
One word. At no expiry date.
And what kind of discount do they get to receive?
20% off. You get 20% off. So if you use that discount code, like I said, if you take 10 tablets a day, a bag of 1,000 tablets is the best value. I was going to try to show you a picture. And a bag, that way it would last you 3 months. And if you took 30 a day, a bag would last you a month. But it is the most nutrient-dense food. Your grocery bill will go down because it's so nourishing. It's protein, it's the real deal. And honestly, it's
and
so
then
proven.
what website would they go to, Catherine?
Oh, sorry, yeah, website. Forgot about that. ENERGYbits.com. ENERGY. B for boy, I, T for Tom, S for Sam.com. ENERGYbits.com. We call them bits because they're bits of nutrition. There is nothing else in there. And we do third-party lab tests here in the United States to prove that. No toxins. We sell only through our website or doctor's offices. We don't sell through stores because it's medical grade food is what it is.
So it's ultra important. So you make sure that it's got what it represents. It has in there and doesn't have any toxins. Is that correct?
Yes, or heavy metals. Yeah, and we spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year on these lab tests because we want people to know that we're a high integrity company. I've taped 20 or 200 videos, teaching videos. You can come to our Instagram, ENERGYbits, to learn more. There's really fun, simple videos that you can listen to. We write a full blog if you don't even want to buy anything. Just come. Algae is the food of the future. There is no question. The world knows it. Scientists know it. Asians know it. I
love your enthusiasm, and I know we could spend all week going over the 100,000 reports and scientific studies that you've been over. Thank you so much for joining us here on Next Level Healing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Tara, and thank you, everybody. Please, we want to help everyone get better. So algae isn't new. It's just new to you.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Next Level Healing. Please send us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Of course, click subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of Next Level Healing. This podcast is intended for the purpose of providing information and education. It does not provide advice and is not meant to be used for any self-diagnosis or the replacement of any kind of licensed professional. The creators and individuals appearing here do not endorse any specific tests, positions, medications, products, or procedures. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.